Dear viewers, the topic which we will discuss today is uh, Afghanistan in deep crisis, particularly uh, when there was an alliance, a council, which was formed on 19th of May this year in Ankara, Turkey. That council, which is composed of 40 renowned Afghan personalities, including former Vice President Abdul Rashid Dostum and the brother of Ahmad Shah Massoud, called as the Lion of Panjshir, they basically agreed to form an alliance against the Taliban. That enough is enough, and they were Taliban were given around 9 months of time. And in 9 months of time, that is when the Taliban captured power in August 2021 till today, the performance of Taliban according to the National Alliance is hopeless. They have not been able to form an inclusive government. They have violated January 2020 Doha Accord by not adhering to the human rights, things like that. So that is something which we have to discuss in some detail, that the Ankara meeting, which was held on May 19th and which was attended by 40 Afghan personalities, to what extent it can destabilize the Taliban regime. Because there are three important realities which we have to take into account. The first is that unlike the first Taliban regime of 1996 to 2001, when the Taliban had captured around 90% of the territory of Afghanistan and the 10% was held by the Northern Alliance. This time, the Taliban, they have in control 100% of the territory of Afghanistan. Even in the fall of 2021, when an attempt was made to launch resistance in the Panjshir Valley, the Taliban were able to defeat Ahmad Shah Massoud's brother. So this is one thing which we have to understand. The second thing is that the Taliban, they have not been able to get international recognition. No member of the UN has granted legitimacy to the Taliban, and that is something which is being exploited by their opponents or by the opposition. The third thing is that Taliban, they are facing enormous resistance. It's not an armed revolt. It's not a resistance in which there is a civil war going on in Afghanistan, but basically a resistance, a silent revolt is taking place, and a couple of steps, a couple of measures which the Taliban took and which antagonized the Afghan population. And the first, basically, that they disbanded the Afghan Human Rights Commission. The second thing, that for the Afghan women, they were disallowed to travel unaccompanied by a male relative. The third thing, that in television, programs and all that, the Taliban authorities, they imposed a ban that without wearing veil, the Afghan women newscasters will not be allowed. And then, of course, the girl education, that even now, the Taliban, they have not allowed female education. So there is a lot of resentment in Afghanistan, and for that matter, the Ankara meeting was held. Now the question is that the Taliban, they basically were in control of, and they are in control of the whole of Afghanistan. And when the Americans, the US forces left Afghanistan in August last year, they basically left $80 billion of weapons. It is not that the Taliban, they are in a position to make use of such weapons, but partly they were able to repair helicopters and tanks, and so they have enough arsenal, they have enough military weapons. So the question is that who is going to support the National Council or the Resistance Council, which was formed in Ankara? under the leadership of Abdul Rashid Dostum. I think the United States, India, Tajikistan, these are the three countries which will definitely provide or render military logistic support to the Taliban. Not to the Taliban, but to the Afghan National Resistance Council. So that is something which we have to understand, that a lot of planning needs to be done on the part of National Council, because they were basically, people who were used earlier. And the notorious Abdul Rashid Dostum, who is called as a warlord and held responsible for massacre and, bloodshed and things like that, again, he is in the limelight. Again, he is leading, resistance against the Taliban. So the question is basically, the thing is basically that for the Afghan people, around 20 million Afghan people, more than 20 million Afghan people, it is a choice. They don't have any choice. It's a devil or a deep blue sea. So one can expect a fresh outbreak of civil war in Afghanistan. And that is what was also warned by the council, the Resistance Council in Ankara, that if the Taliban, they refuse to form an inclusive government, and if they also are unable to adhere to the human rights issue, the day is not far when Afghanistan will be plunged into another era of civil war. So that is something which will also negatively impact on Pakistan, because Pakistan itself is in crisis. And if there is a civil war in Afghanistan and the National Resistance Council is able to give tough time to the Taliban, then there will be a fresh influx of refugees to Pakistan. So that is something which we have to understand. That is something what the neighbors of Afghanistan must try to take cognizance of the situation, which is very delicate. And the Taliban, in view of the fact that they have neither material resources, adequate material resources, nor they have international legitimacy. So it is time for Taliban to rethink about their strategy and to agree as far as the inclusive government is concerned. And the problem is basically that there is enormous trust deficit between Taliban and their opponents, which needs to be bridged. Thank you very much.